Hey, it's Lisa and Dan. Welcome to the Be Make Do Soul Makers podcast, where we explore art making and creativity from a place of deeper calling and encourage you to become who you were created to be, make what you were created to make, and do what you were created to do.
And for this season, we've been talking about motivation, success, and fulfillment by exploring the 6 artist archetypes, which are
The maker,
the mystic,
the imaginative visionary,
the storyteller,
the soul healer,
and the prophetic critic. You can take our quiz and find out which archetype you are at soulmakers.org/quiz or hit up our show notes. In addition to exploring the archetypes, we've been talking with creatives about how their unique motivations help them overcome challenges and create a fulfilling life in the arts.
In this episode, we'll be speaking with Adrienne Reedy, a speaker, songwriter, and visual artist who's an active member of Greenwich Pen Women, a national group of writers, musicians, and artists, as well as the Connecticut Pastel Society, a board member of Kids Empowered by Your Support, a nonprofit that provides free music lessons to children in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Adrienne and her husband, Steve, live in Wilton, Connecticut, where they raise their 3 adult sons. She's also a community activist and serves as a police commissioner. Plus, she was ordained in June of 2022. She's a part of the Convergence community, which is the sponsor for Soul Makers, and she's actually on the board. She leads a monthly group called Artscape to Heartscape, which is a time of deep conversation with artists. Adrienne is intentional and passionate about her faith and lives it to the fullest. She's a really great friend and an amazing artist, and I can't wait to get into this conversation.
And she's also super, super nice. All right, let's get started.
So welcome, Adrienne. Hi.
Hey, Lisa. Good to see you.
You too. Thank you so much for sitting down and talking with me for the podcast. I wanted to do this for a long time.
And thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, okay, Adrienne, you are obviously you're no stranger to Convergence and the Be Make Do podcast and Soul Makers. You've been with us since before the podcast's inception, and you've been traveling with us on this journey. And now you're on the board for Convergence as well. So you're very intimately involved with what we're trying to do here. But today I want to talk to you as an artist, as a multi-talented creative. And as I was telling you before, I asked you here specifically because I think when it comes to motivation, you're really an interesting person with a lot of clarity and a lot of joy. And I feel like you inspire and encourage, especially young people, in ways that they just really need to hear. So I just kind of want to pick your brain.
Absolutely.
And hear what you have to say. Okay.
Here we are.
So by way of kind of starting the conversation and telling the audience a little bit about your work, let's start with this question. So I was thinking about this. Some people, especially creatives, but some people follow just a straight path in their career, and that's more typical in non-creative careers. But you get this job, you do this, you go to school for this happens. There's a straight path. For others, it's a long and winding road, and for other people, there's lots of pit stops or crashes off the side of the highway or whatever. How would you describe your journey as an artist and as a creative?
That's a good question. For me, my journey, when I look back, it started a long time ago. It started probably when I was a kid, but I didn't realize that. I was fortunate to have a neighbor who I used to babysit for. And I was 12 years old, and I asked her if she would teach me how to sew, because she was such an amazing tailor, seamstress, whatever you want to call her. And she was great. And so the summer when I was 12 years old, we went on this journey, and she taught me how to sew. And I always enjoyed art. When I was a kid, I always enjoyed coloring and all of that good stuff. But something happened to me when I learned how to just create out of fabric and just literally out of nothing, because she taught me how to look at the body, and she taught me how to look at fabric and how it laid. And so that's when it started. But when I really look back, it's been a part of my journey. But as I always tell people, being a visual artist didn't hit me until Christmas Day of 2018.
Yeah, not that long ago. You were on a completely different. Because I have always, in addition to liking art, I've always been a musician. Yeah, so you were a very successful singer,
gospel artist, recording artist, and just would travel. I was with several groups and traveled. Did a lot of just wonderful work with being a gospel artist, solo artist, and then also a worship leader for some major evangelists, where I would travel with them. And so music was my thing. And I just tell people now, it's like, wow, art was the missing link. It was the missing piece for me.
Visual art, yeah.
The visual arts, because it showed up on my lap Christmas morning, 2018. And I will never forget how, when I got these pastels in my Christmas stocking, how it literally, like, all of a sudden I just, like, at first I was a little annoyed, but then I realized that, wait a minute, these pastels are showing up on my lap. Like, they came to me. And I remember, like, the next day when I took them out and started messing around with them, I realized that there was something more going on. That's the only way I could explain it. There was something more going on with these pastels by showing up at my door and my lap. I didn't go out and buy them. My husband purchased them for me, gave them to me in my Christmas stocking, along with some other things in a gift. And I knew that this was more than it was more than a gift. Like, I was opening up something that was way bigger than what I was seeing.
Yeah. It's so incredible, because I met you when you're in this pastel phase of exploration, and then there's iconography, and there's other forms of painting. Like, you are just this creative person. There's this curiosity and exploration of the tools and materials. Does it feel like, is there connection for you? It's not like did you stop being a performer and a singer when you picked up?
No. I perform every week.
Yeah.
I have several churches that I work with. I'm singing, and I still, music is a huge part of my life. I take piano lessons. I'm writing songs. But I feel now what has happened inside in my soul and my spirit is, I know that there is something that I have to say, that I feel that God wants me to say. And He continues, like, every time, if I'm outside or if I'm doing something and I come in contact with some new form of art that I haven't tried. Because I don't even know if you knew this about me, Lisa, but I used to have a calligraphy business.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Way back. Like, I was a calligrapher, and I had an invitation. I was Adrienne's Ink, INK.
Oh, wow.
And I had my invitation business, and I was doing calligraphy. So all of these things now are like, I see that there's something that is brewing inside. I am anxious to see how God is even going to use this for the greater good. I know that I know it's not just because, I like calligraphy, or I like watercolor, which I do, or I like icons and I like iconography. No, there is something that God is doing, and I know it's Him inspiring me and motivating me, because there's something that He has that 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 I am to say. I'm to be able to use all of this to speak into what is unfolding in front of us as we even speak.
Yeah.
I know that's what's happening. So I'm just having fun.
Yeah.
I am just having a good time because, as I'm doing all of this work, as I'm doing the writing and as I'm doing the music and as I'm doing the artwork, and he keeps opening these doors for me to be able to speak and to share my work. I just am in awe that he keeps using me, and I keep feeling like, and there's even more, and there's more, and there's more.
So I love, I mean, you talk all the time about just having fun, and you're just having fun with it. And I'm so, the contrast between what you just said in, kind of like, okay, I've got these pastels, I've got these icons, I've got this. What is God got for me here? What is it that God wants to use? And I talk to so many creatives who can get paralyzed a little bit because they have so many interests, feeling like maybe that's a bad thing because maybe I shouldn't, I need to pick a lane, or I need to do one thing so that's my thing that I do, or how do I decide between all of these different things, and really kind of get kind of stuck in a knot because I think they feel like they have to make a choice. Obviously, you have to make choices with your time, but
right.
It's really an interesting perspective to not make it be so like, I have to make the right choice to go down the right path to fulfill the destiny that God has for my gift. But to be able instead to say, I have a basket full of all kinds of goodies, and I'm going to commit to playing, and I'm going to play with these things and allow God to do whatever God's going to do.
What he's going to do. And I really feel that way. It's at the end of the day, it honestly is not about me. And I realize that because for me, what is about me is to recognize when he's doing something.
Right.
And for me, that's where I always want to be, in that space where I'm not taking myself so seriously, but I'm taking him real seriously. What is it that you, God, want me to do? And so if he gives me, I never know when some of the things that I do, when it's going to pop up, but it always seems like he doesn't waste any of it. It always seems like when I have the opportunity to do something, when I mean do something, let's say if I have an opportunity to do, like a couple of weeks ago, I did a pastor's retreat. I had no idea that some work that I did a while ago would be apropos for what was needed right there at the moment. And so every time when that happens, it makes me realize that my job as an artist, my job as a creative, my job as a steward of the gifts that he has given me is to always be ready to say yes when he asks me to do something. Right. And so at this pastor's retreat, I was really surprised because it was it was work that I did. It was a piece that I did that I called Your Hands. Well, it was a piece that I did for Lent, thinking about Jesus's hands and how I never thought of his hands as of being dirty. And this particular painting was about that. Jesus's hands got dirty. But at the same time, that piece was used for this particular, I do what I call the art of Re. And so I call this the art of Re 2.0. And one of the words that I use in the art of Re 2.0 is release. And these hands was, a reminder of how God calls us to release certain things in our lives, release these ideas, that negative thoughts that I could have about myself or what have you. And so I just really get a kick out of, just do the stuff that all of a sudden I get this unction, this thing like, oh, I got to paint that, or I got to do this, I got to do that, or I got to try this. And then just sit back, and I'm not doing it because, I'm looking to sell anything, or I'm just trying my best to be a good steward. And then when I'm doing that, I just want to let that work speak for itself. And so when the opportunity comes and God says, okay, I want you to look over here because there's something I have for you over here, Adrienne. You've been looking over there. I want you to look over here, and then be ready to do that, whether it's with my music or whether it's with my writing or whether it's with my art, visual art.
Right. Well, so, okay, talk a little bit about that then. You were saying being really good at, or being really aware of when God wants to do something. Like, how do you do that? How do you pay attention in that way? How do you develop the ability to really listen and pay attention in that way? To know, like, this is something God is really like opening up for me.
Yeah. For me, every morning when I get up, because I've had my time with him before I went to bed. See, my day starts the night before. So by the time I get up, I'm already expecting God to speak to me. I'm anticipating that the different things that are going to happen sometime today, throughout the day. I want to make sure that my antennas are up, that I'm listening beyond what's being said. I am just taking that time to say, all right, someone said something to me, or someone showed up that I wasn't expecting. See, I don't think that it's a coincidence. I see these moments, or these conversations, or different things. I'm constantly asking, okay, God, where are you trying to get my attention? Right now, today, like in this particular situation. I'll give you an example. Although this was not me per se, but my husband, there was this young man that my husband has been, he had met at the supermarket during COVID. And the young man, for some reason, they got into this conversation. And Steve told me about this young man. And, Memorial Day, not Memorial, Memorial Day, we were out. And the young man saw us in a distance. And he called, Mr. Reedy, Mr. Reedy. He was so excited. And so I looked at Steve and I'm like, I said, is that the young man that you were telling me about at the supermarket? He was like, yeah. I said, right then and there, I was like, the way this young man was so excited to see us, to see Steve. I said, don't mess around with this. I said, this is serious. This is one of those God-ordained moments, Steve. Don't miss it.
Wow.
And he has been mentoring this young man ever since. Now, here's the thing that blew my mind. The day that happened, when he just like really connected and they went and had lunch, was the same day 5 years ago that young man's father had passed away. And he had been really struggling. I mean, we don't know what God really wants from us, but if we're aware and just stay in tune to what he's doing, question it. And then all of a sudden you see the confirmation. I mean, he has been now meeting with this guy every Wednesday. They have lunch, and he's been mentoring and helping this guy who's, I think he's maybe 27 years old, who had lost his way.
Yeah.
But I knew it wasn't, I knew, Lisa, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that was not a coincidence that we ran into this, just by what was going, the way he responded. I look for things like that all the time. And I think God is moving all the time in those areas and we miss it. I don't want to miss it.
That attitude right there is, I think, a key piece of what makes you you. That I don't want to miss it.
I don't want to miss it.
You have this sense of expectation that God is moving, expectation that God's gifts are available to you, expectation that there is joy and there is something good that's going to come out. And you genuinely do approach the world every day in that way. And
every day.
That's not all that common, Adrienne, I have to say. I mean, it's a real gift.
And that's why I always say it's such a beautiful life. It's so, like, I'm not saying it doesn't go without, trials or anything or sorrows for that matter. But I mean, I look for that. I look for it. I anticipate and I expect it.
That's probably it. Like that's a big part of the practice, is that you are and choosing to enter the world with a sense of expectation, with a sense of curiosity, where you are looking for what God is going to do. You are expecting, as opposed to the alternative, which is expecting to be disappointed, expecting it's probably not going to work out, expecting, which I think a lot of us can get into. Of you see the difficulties in the world and you start to expect instead of, wait a second, this grounding in the larger truth and the bigger reality and the power and the authority of God, and then walking, really, that's what it looks like to walk in that way, is that maybe that sense of expectation. I love that.
No. And for every, I'm blessed. I have so many people, young people that I get to mentor and people that I get to work with. And that's what I will always share.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be walking around expecting the shoe to drop all the time. It's like,
right.
No.
And like you said, it's not like bad things don't happen. It's not like life isn't hard. It's not like you haven't been touched, but it's your attitude and your kind of your compass that's very, very firmly focused. And that changes, though. It's like a lens that you see the world with.
Yes. I choose to see, even in the trial, even in the storm, I choose to see where God is doing something. I mean, show me something that you're because he promised that he would be with us through the storms.
Yeah.
Not take it away, like, or, so I'm going to say, where are you showing up today, God? Yeah. How are you showing up for me today? Whether it's my music, or is it going to be my writing? Yeah. Or is it going to be my art? What do you want me to do? So I really try to make sure that I'm making sure I balance it all.
Yeah. You've really modeled that for me, and it's really inspired me to lean more into that. So I love watching you, because it reminds me to be in that space. And so I'm wondering, I think this is a really interesting conversation, because I think a lot of creatives, as well as people, but creatives have trouble sometimes discerning what is the thing to take, the opportunity to take, or what's the decision to make. So looking at, you're talking about being open and expecting where God is going to work. And then you were talking about when an opportunity that presents itself seems like more than a coincidence. There seems like there's something there. And then you said, so test it and see what the fruit, see what comes out of that. Mm-hmm. What are there any little like pings or things that you sort of pay attention to that tell you this is not this is not something I need to be involved in?
See, I'm one of these people who probably drive a lot of people crazy, because our culture, our society right now is saying things like, no is a good word. Like, just say no. And in some cases, yeah, you just say no. But like right now, I feel that I am in the season of saying yes. Now, maybe I'm in the season of saying yes because I can. I am so blessed that I have my husband is extremely supportive of the things that I do. Now, if someone was asking me gosh, if it was something that I just absolutely hated, I would even question if an opportunity came up. I would even question, okay, if I hated it, like God, is there something that you want to work in me about, in this area of something that I absolutely hate? That's what happened. I mean, and one of the things that I do, I'm a police commissioner in my town. I have to be honest with you. If someone would have told me 5 years ago that I would be a police commissioner in my town, I would say, first of all, that's impossible. And second of all, I can't stand them.
Wow.
Right? But God, in his infinite wisdom, when that opportunity was presented to me, initially I said, no way. And then I sat down with my husband and we talked, and he was like, are you sure? And then I felt like the Lord was giving me an opportunity to resolve some wounds that were there.
Yeah.
And to also give me a platform to be able to make some major changes in my community.
Wow.
Now, I would have never guessed that in a million years. I mean, I could have said no, but God, I realized he said yes. And I'm so glad that he did, because, now that's not art, but I'm able to use my creative, ways of helping our men and our women here in our community and make decisions and do things creatively. It's been an amazing, unexpected experience.
Wow. Well, that reminds me, on your website, it says, through her faith, she lives at the intersection of art and reconciliation. Tell me more about what that means for you.
Well, for me, it's really reconciliation for race, racial reconciliation, and that's I'm really hoping that racial reconciliation and the work that I do, especially in churches, like I like to help churches have the hard conversation on race. I mean, ever since, even before George Floyd, but I mean, I've been working in this ministry of racial reconciliation for maybe the past 15 or even more years. Because I think that if there's anyone who should be able to speak into the racial stresses that we see happening in our country day in and day out, should be the church. And so I have made it my business to make sure that everything that I do, I'm always looking at it through the lens of how can I show up and how can I help people who don't even know how to have a conversation about race. People talk about two things you can't talk about. You can't talk about politics, right? Can't talk about religion. So there's three things, and you can't talk about race.
Right.
And I believe that people of faith, if there's anything that we should be able to talk about, it's race.
Right.
And so my work, I really like when I have the opportunity of sometimes having Jesus show up in brown skin. And in a lot of circles that I get to go into, a lot of spaces, that could be a trigger for some folks. But then I love to be able to help guide the conversations. I mean, my husband and I, we have something that I call racism to gracism. So actually, it's gracism. It's being gracist, like helping people to understand the importance of being able to extend grace wherever they go and whatever the situation is. And so I have we would open our home for people to come in and to be able to have those conversations.
It's such a beautiful and generous way to be and come at all kinds of things. I think this gets to the core of when I think about you and your motivation. You've already talked. You are so deeply grounded in your spiritual life, and your artwork connects to your spiritual life. So in one sense, I could say, oh, she really seems like she's got this mystic thing going on, or she wants to help people. So it's the soul healer kind of aspect. And then you bring in the race piece, and then it could be the prophetic critic thing, because you do have this desire. But then, we talked, your score is an imaginative visionary. And I think, when you talk about the gracist stuff, that's where it all just centers in and zeros that, yes, there's all of these pieces, which of course we all have different pieces and different flavors, but it all comes out of this bigger, it seems to me, and you tell me if I'm wrong or right, or expound on it. But you have this sense of a vision for what could be.
I really do.
And it kind of brings all those pieces together.
Yes.
Yeah. What motivates you? Yeah.
What really motivates me.
An interesting person.
What really motivates me is because, first of all, this last vision, the visual art came to me in 2018 and all, and so I've been working really hard. But what I realized, because I feel like I'm just Adrienne trying to live out my life to the fullest. This visual, it's changed me. It changed me. Like, the visual arts gave me eyes to see in a way that, really, like, it just did, like, my heart. Like, I could start to see in a way that I just was not able to see. So now I feel like, are you kidding me? Like, I have the opportunity to change through art and music and writing. If someone that I come in contact with, if I can help that one person see in a way that, like, my vision has changed, like my vision has changed in my heart, I feel like I have at my fingertips, at the tip of my tongue, through my music and through my writing, have the opportunity to change the world. Like, God would want to use, I believe, to use us as artists to literally change the world.
Yeah.
And that's what motivates me, because I see
my language.
I see what like, it happened to me. Like,
right.
I will never be the same. Even like when I was doing my music and that was great, but it was not until the visual artist came out and rose up in me that it's changed my perspective in life. And I now know that could literally happen. If it happened for me, I would just like to just grab all of the people, especially like those who are hurting and those who feel lost. Like, I feel like I can help them see that there is a God who is so big and loves us so much that he could take a pastel in someone's hand, or he could take, just beautiful music and literally change a person's life. I've seen it. I've seen it happen in my music. I've seen it happen with my art. I've seen it happen, like when I had an art show, and what happened, like literally a person walks in who I don't know, they don't know me, and they see a cardinal that I painted and just cry.
Hmm.
It wasn't because the cardinal was painted so beautifully, like, that's not me. I'm not like one of these, I'm not Van Gogh. I'm not like one of these famous artists, but God could use even my art.
Hmm.
I feel like just like he did that for me, he can do that for anybody.
Yeah.
I feel it's there for all of us.
And your enthusiasm and passion is so invigorating and catching. And I really hope that people, especially those who kind of identify with the imaginative visionary, can hear that and embrace that, to just embrace the passion, embrace the vision, and that fire in your belly that drives you, and don't worry so much about the end goal or what it all looks like, or I have to specialize in this, that, or the other. Because again, you were just talking about a painting of a cardinal. You paint all kinds of different things. You sing in all kinds of different environments. You lead all kinds of different workshops. It's not like your work is all evangelistic or devotional or, has a specific message. You're just doing your thing, whatever it is you happen to touch, whatever's the right thing at the right moment, trusting that all of this passion and energy matched with this really submission to God's will in your life will result in something good. And you just you're not worried about the results because you know it's going to be good.
Right.
It's freedom.
Because what I'm always trying to do is if I can, it's so freeing. And if I can capture joy and capture beauty and, whether it's, a tree or a leaf or a frog or capturing a little kid laughing or blowing bubbles, whatever. I just want to capture it somehow. Just capture. If I can capture just the essence of this marvelous thing that's happening, that I'm seeing or experiencing, I could change somebody. That can change. It changes people's lives.
Absolutely. Well, okay, let's look at the other side of that then. What do you have to guard against? What do you have to what structures do you have to build, or what do you have to do to protect that piece of you that motivates you? What can kill your motivation, and how do you protect yourself from that?
I have to be very, I am a gatekeeper to the joy stealers or killers. Like, I refuse. I cannot, waste my time. I can pray for you, but I cannot allow, when I realize that, so-and-so is not interested in changing. So-and-so is just interested in staying in that negative, horrible space. Now, I will pray for them, and I will, I try not to write people off, but I know how to distance myself so that I'm not being drained by people who are not interested in changing, or they're just not interested in seeing the joy and living the joy.
That is so...
I can't.
How do you do that? How do you, so you pray, because I've certainly been at points in my life where I think, but it's not the right Christian thing to do. It's not, you gotta give all of yourself until there's nothing left, because they'll take it all. So how do you do that gracefully? How do you do that well? Yeah.
I'm just not available. But I explain
you
it
just
to
know.
them.
Yeah.
I know. And I have no problem, asking, what is it that you need? What is it that you think you need? What is it that you want? And we can pray, and I will do my best to help you. But I am not the one who will, if you want to hang out, and if you're constantly, I'm not saying, when I leave people when they're, no, but I will not surround myself with a bunch of negative Debbie Downers or,
Yeah.
just
Well,
won't do it.
I think that's so important. And again, that's another thing that I see modeled from you. You are completely full of joy. You are completely filled with like, yes, and let's try that. Let's do this. But you have no problem at the same time, in the same way, you're completely honest with this is what's going on and this is what, I accept and this is what I don't accept, or this is what I question. And I think that's a piece that is something that a lot of us have to learn over time how to do that, because that's another piece of that. Well, just like you said, of maintaining that your sense of yourself and your sense of joy is not letting it be stolen. And there's nothing wrong with not letting it be stolen. There's nothing wrong with being honest. All of these, the joy and the freedom and the, full of passion for what God is going to do in your work and in the world and through you is very different than being nice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like nice is not always the most appropriate response to think. Or, not kind, but I mean, that like appeasing.
Right. I mean, you can,
you're looking at me like, yeah, duh.
Right.
Like, of course.
I don't have time.
Why is this not? Yeah.
I don't have time. I don't.
I love that.
And I really feel that I can love at a distance, and I will honestly will pray, and I will honestly do my best to if God is bringing someone into my life, I take that very seriously. But if they are just not interested in, if every time when I walk away from somebody, and if I'm to the point where every time I walk away from that person, I'm depressed.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
No.
Well, and then you're closing off those gates for what God is doing.
Yeah. Right. Right. And they just continue to choose, to not see any joy or have any joy. Right. Again, I'm not talking about someone who's, they're clinically depressed, and there are some people who are joy killers.
Right. Right.
And I just, no.
Just no. I love that. No. Well, let's talk about young people in the arts, or people who are kind of emerging in the arts, regardless of what age they are. What do you've talked about mentoring young people. I know that even within your own family, you're mentoring young people and young people in the arts as well. What do you tend to say to them? What's the most often piece of advice that you end up giving?
Here's what I've learned. Okay. I have learned that because I am so loved, I am so loved by God, I'm so loved by my husband, that is enough to make me pursue and be all that I can possibly be, make all I can possibly make.
I like that.
Right. And so, like, when I am mentoring, like, that's what I always try to make sure they understand how much they are loved. I have two artists, sons. I have three sons, but two of them are real artists. And I think that they're real artists because they know how much they are loved. And I feel that I am who I am today because I know how much I am loved. And so when I'm working with people, I want to help them get that understanding under their belt to realize how much they're loved. And it sounds corny, like it can sound corny to some people, but I'm telling you what I know. I think more than half of the reason why I was willing to take risks in life is because I was loved. Yeah. I am loved. And I'm not only loved by my family, I know how much I am loved by God.
Yeah.
Does that,
yes.
you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I'm thinking when somebody would say, oh, like you said, the corny or like, well, but I don't have that.
But I don't have it.
That's the key. Then it makes me think of the be, make, do stuff. Like you think your success or fulfillment as an artist, then, okay, I don't have that. I don't have time for the relationship stuff. I don't have time I need to do this stuff to become successful. I'll put all this energy into either my craft or to making that into something that's marketable or people see or successful, or I'm trying to prove myself, when the reality is what you really do need to do first is to build that foundation. And it doesn't have to be, anything in particular. It needs to be the spiritual connection with God, and then connecting with a group of people,
Yes.
a faith community, a small group of friends, who really,
really care about you.
Yeah. So that you have that foundation, and understanding that is not just something that's nice, but that's actually the soil for everything else to grow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Literally. And more and more each day, I think about that and I'm like, wow, I'm so fortunate.
Yeah.
I'm so fortunate because I know that I'm loved. I don't think I'm loved.
Right.
I know that I'm loved.
Yeah.
And there's something that happens when you know that, like, I am willing to take risks because I don't.
Yeah.
What do
you have to lose?
What do I have to lose?
It's so risky.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm just having a good time.
Yeah. Well, speaking of having a good time, this will be my way to kind of close this out. What I want to ask you, for you, what does it feel like when you've created something or you're a part of something that just sort of fits right in the center of everything that motivates you and makes you tick? Describe for me what it feels like. What is that? What does that look like?
Yeah. This is what it looks like to me. And it happens. And I feel like I have this audience of one where I see, like, God looking down and just being like, you did good. Mm-hmm. Well done. You did good.
Yeah.
You did good. When I get that, whether it's like when I'm singing and because when you're doing art, you don't get the same. It's like after I sing a song and
you get that
clap,
initial
it's
response.
a whole, you have that. Right. But when I am working and doing, it works the same way. It's like, I feel like literally that God himself is just saying, look at my girl. Like, you done did it again.
Wow.
Good for you. You did it again.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's a cool, just fun thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It feels really good. And I can always tell when I get in the way. I could always tell when I get in the way, because then I'm like, oh, I get all moody and,
right.
and it's like, no.
Yeah.
Just, it's not yours. Just like, get out there and just do it and just have fun and let it be, let it go wherever it goes. Like, I'm not in control of that. He is. And so I just feel really good and happy that I did what I felt was required of me for what I'm capable of doing for this time. Next year, I hope it's even better. And if the Lord tarries and I have 5, 10, 20 more years to do all of this, wow, I can't wait to see. I can't wait to see what he'll do with it.
Wow.
What he'll do with me. And I just hope I just keep getting better and better and better and better.
Yeah. I love that. I love thinking about thinking about 5 years from now or 10 years from now with that sense of expectation again, what will God do with me? Like, that's so different than, I got to get there, or what am I going to accomplish, or whatever. But to be like, what's God going to do next?
Yeah. What's he going to do next? Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Wow. Thank you so much, Adrienne. This has been such a great conversation. And I've gotten a chance to ask you some questions I've wanted to ask you too. So thank you so much for sharing this. And thank you for your work too behind the scenes with Convergence and Soulmakers and Be Make Do. We really do appreciate you and everything that you give.
Well, let me thank you, Lisa, but let me really just thank you, because thank you for allowing me to be me in this space of convergence. I mean, it's so good to be in a family where people allow you to be who you are, and not only that, and understood. Doesn't happen everywhere I go.
Yeah.
And so this has been so rewarding and just so amazing for me, because I feel like, and I always tell people, I found my peeps. And thank you for allowing me to participate and to show up as Adrienne.
Yeah.
Truly. Thank you.
Thank you. We wouldn't want it any other way. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Join us in our next episode when we explore our final artist archetype, the prophetic critic.
Thanks for listening to Be Make Do, a Soulmakers podcast. All links and resources are located in our show notes. Want to know your artist archetype? Take the quiz at soulmakers.org/quiz.